All right, so today we're going to work with degree measures and your parallel lines and your angle pairs. So if you guys would get out your worksheet, this is number 3. We're actually going to start on the back just to refresh our memory. So let's flip it over on the back. All right, so from Friday, what we want to remember are these things right here, which ones are congruent and which ones are supplementary. So remember, vertical angles are always congruent, whether or not you have parallel lines. Corresponding angles, remember corresponding are on the same side of your transversal. One is inside your parallel lines, one is outside your parallel lines, and they are not next to each other. So an example of that would be angle 1 and angle 5, or you could say 3 and 7, angles 2 and 6, or angles 4 and 8. Alternate interior, your alt-int, angles are also congruent. Remember, they have to be on different sides of your transversal inside your parallel lines, so that would be angles 3 and angle 6. Or we could also say angle 4 and angle 5. They are also congruent. Alternate exterior angles, again, different sides of your transversal outside your parallel lines. So we would be talking about angle 1 and angle 8. Or you could say angle 2 and angle 7. Those are also congruent. We also had a couple pairs that were supplementary. Remember, if you need to make a note, they add up to 180. Okay. And on here, remember, we called them consecutive interior, but we also called them same side. So same side interior angles, like 3 and 5, or 4 and 6, add up to 180 degrees. As do same side exterior angles, which would be angle 1 and angle 7, same side of your transversal, both outside your parallel lines. Or we could also say angle 2 and angle 8. Those are also supplementary. The other pair that we did talk about briefly are linear. Remember, linear are angles that are next to each other and make a straight line. They don't necessarily pertain to parallel lines only, but that would be like angle 1 and angle 2. See how they're next to each other and make this straight angle. Those would add up to 180. You could also say angle 2 and angle 4 if you looked at it this way. Those would be supplementary. You could say angle 1 and angle 3. Those would add up to 180. They are supplementary. And you could also say angle 3 and 4. They would add up to 180. On the bottom, same thing, 5 and 6, 6 and 8, 8 and 7, or 7 and 5. So you have to make sure you know which ones are congruent. Remember, that just means equal to each other, or which ones add up to 180. All right, so let's take a look. You need to mark your picture so you can see which angles they're asking you about. So the first one says angle 1. That should have an angle. Let's fix that. Got a little cut off all the way down. Let's see. Yeah, it cut it, the angle symbol, off on all of them. So let's fix that. So angle 1 is 45 degrees. We want to know the measure of angle 8. So we mark angle 1, then we mark angle 8, and then we have to ask ourselves, what kind of angles are they? Well, I see they're on different sides of my transversal, so that means alternate, and they are both outside my parallel lines, so that is exterior. So what kind of angles are they? They're alternate exterior. What do we know about alternate exterior angles? We know they're congruent, so if angle 1 is 45, angle 8 is 45 degrees. So now we're going to erase, because we're changing problems, and they're giving us angle 3. So again, mark it on your picture so that you can see angle 3. They want, remember the M in front, this M right here, just means measure of. So they want to know what the measure of angle 6 is. So we have to figure out what kind of angles they are. So angle 3 and angle 6, they are on different sides of your transversal. Let's just make that blue so everybody can see that. That's my transversal. So they're alternate, and if I look at them, they are both inside my parallel lines. So our word for inside is interior. So these are alternate interior angles. What do we know about alternate interior angles? We know they are congruent. So if 3 is 55, 6 is also 55 degrees. So again, we erase what our angles that we marked, and now we look at the next pair. So again, they want us to look at angle 3. Okay. Now, this time they're telling me angle 3 is 120 degrees. Now, the picture is not drawn to scale, which is why it doesn't really look like it would be 120 degrees, but we're not worried about that. We're just going with the information they're giving us. They want angle 5, so here's angle 5. So again, we have to determine the relationship. 3 and 5 are on the same side, and they're inside my parallel lines. So same side, and again, we also say consecutive, but same side interior. What do we know about same side interior angles? We know that they are supplementary, so they have to add up to 180. So to get angle 5, I actually have to say 180 minus 120. And so angle 5 is 60 degrees. All right, let's keep on going. So we'll erase our marks on our angles. Gonna erase our little computation over here. Now they want us to do angle 4. So angle 4 and angle 8. So I mark them. Now I have to decide what kind they are. So they're on the same side. Okay. And if I look, angle 4 is inside my parallel lines. Angle 8 is outside my parallel lines. They're not directly next to each other. So remember, that is the definition of corresponding. When you have one inside, one outside on the same side of your transversal and not next to each other, they're corresponding angles. Okay? Or if we were to slide the top part of our picture down on top of the bottom, they would match up exactly. They would correspond. Corresponding angles are congruent. So if angle 4 is 40, let's write corresponding first. If angle 4 is 40, then angle 8 is also 40 degrees. Don't try to eyeball these. Mark your angles so you can really see the relationship. Okay, again, angle 4, so let's mark that, and angle 5, let's mark that. Okay. What kind of angles are they? Different sides of your transversal, so they're alternate, and they are both inside, so those are alternate interior. So what do we know about alternate interior angles? Alternate interior angles are congruent, so if angle 4 is 40, angle 5 is also 40 degrees. All right, let's look at angle 1. Angle 1 is up here. They want us to find the measure of angle 7. So again, determine your relationship. They're on the same side. Angle 1 is outside my parallel lines. Angle 7 is outside my parallel lines. So that's same side or consecutive exterior. What do we know about same side exterior angles? They add up to 180. Okay, so they're not equal here. So I got to do a little math. If they add up to 180, and I know angle 1 is 70, I need to subtract to see what I have left for angle 7. So angle 7 would be 110 degrees. All right, let's look at angle 1 again, but this time it's angle 4. So I'm going to mark angle 4. And so I mark it. All right, now I see they're on different sides of my transversal, but they're directly across from each other. They're directly opposite. So remember, those are actually old angle pairs that we've studied. They have nothing to do with your parallel lines. They just have to do with the two lines that are intersecting there. So when you have angles that directly across from each other, remember those are vertical. What do we know about vertical angles? Vertical angles are congruent. So if angle 1 is 25, angle 4 is 25 degrees. So take a minute, see if you can find the next three. So pause this video, see if you can figure out the relationship of the next three, and then we'll talk about it. So pause the video now, take about 4 minutes to figure those out, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so let's see. Again, mark your angles. This is a lot easier if you mark your angles. So they want angle 3, or they're giving me angle 3 is 55. They want angle 7. Figure out what kind of angles 3 and 7 are. They're on the same side of my transversal. 3 is inside my parallel lines. 7 is outside my parallel lines. They are not next to each other. So, good, corresponding. What do we know about corresponding angles? They're congruent. So if angle 3 is 55, angle 7 is 55 degrees. Good. All right, erase. Now they want us to do angles 2 and angle 8. So again, marking so I can see what I'm working with. So angle 2 and 8 are on the right side of my transversal. They're on the same side. Angle 2 is outside my parallel lines. Angle 8 is outside my parallel lines. So again, what's the angle relationship? They are same side exterior. Absolutely. What do we know about same side exterior? They are supplementary. So that means we have to, they add up to 180. So take the 180, subtract what we know angle 2 is, and that leaves me 120 degrees. Good job. And last pair, oh, let me erase my marks first. 4 and 6. So again, mark angle 4, mark angle 6. All right, they're on the same side of my transversal. They are both inside my parallel lines. So what kind of angles are they? Same side interior. What do we know about same side interior? Same side interior angles are supplementary, which means they add up to 180. So if I know angle 4 is 80, I'm going to do 180 minus what I know angle 4 is to see how much we have left. So that would be 100 degrees. All right, flip it over on the front. Now let's look at when they just give us one number and they want us to fill in all 8. And there's going to be a lot of different ways to fill in this picture. I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest, and then you can decide if you have another way. As long as you use the angle pairs that we've talked about, which ones are congruent, which ones are supplementary, and your reasoning is correct, you may see this and fill this in a little bit differently. All right. P is parallel to Q, and the measure of angle 1 is 125. Find the indicated measures. Now, I strongly suggest before you go try to do the measure of angle 2, the measure of angle 3, come over to your picture. Fill in your picture first. So they're telling me angle 1 is 125. So I'm going to put that on my picture. Now, again, there's lots of different ways for people to fill this out. I'm going to show you the way that makes the most sense to me, and then you can decide if your reasoning is legit and what you're using is correct as far as how you're setting it up. That will work. You'll just have to check with one of us. All right, so angle 1, I know corresponds to angle 7. I see that very quickly. What do we know about corresponding angles? Corresponding angles are congruent. So if angle 1 is 125, then I also know that angle 7 is 125. Now again, that's not the first place that you may have filled in, but that's what I saw. Now, if I just look at the top, I can fill in 2, 5, and 6, not even using angle pairs with your parallel lines. I can fill them in with old angle pairs that we've talked about. So angle 1 and angle 6, what kind of angles are those? They're vertical. What do we know about vertical angles? They're congruent. So if angle 1 is 125, then I know angle 6 is 125. Now, here's the other thing I see, and again, this goes back to when we talked about complementary, supplementary, vertical, and linear. If you look, angle 1 is next to angle 5. They're adjacent. Remember, that means they're next to each other and share a side. They share that middle side right here. Let me make that, well, gray isn't going to show up real well, is it? No, let's make that blue. So they share this side. They're next to each other, they're adjacent, they share a side, and they make this straight angle. Well, we know that a straight angle is supplementary. Okay? 1 and 5 are a linear pair. That means they're supplementary. Supplementary means angle 1 and angle 5 add up to 180. So if I know angle 1 is 125, I just need to subtract that from 180, and that tells me what I have left for angle 5, and that would be 55 degrees. Now, if I know angle 5 is 55, what do I know angle 2? What do I know about 5 and 2? Angle 5 and angle 2 are vertical, and what do we know about vertical angles? They're congruent. Everybody likes vertical angles. Vertical angles are easy. All right, so you can do the exact same process down here at the bottom. You can go vertical and then use your linear pair. Some people like to use their new angle pairs, meaning some people will say, well, I don't want to use vertical and linear down here. I want to use corresponding. So I have people that say, hey, I see the angle 5 all the way up here. Oops. Well, let me try that. There we go. Angle 5 up here corresponds to angle 3. And I know that corresponding angles are congruent, so I'm going to say that's 55. Okay. Someone else might say, well, I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as angle 2 and angle 3. And you can see my picture's going to start looking crazy. But angle 2 and angle 3 are alternate interior. And what do I know about alternate interior angles? They are congruent. So that's why I got 55. It really is going to depend on how you see it, as long as your reasoning fits one of our ways. Again, once you have those two, really you can just vertical. Vertical, everybody likes them. Everybody thinks they're easy. So 7 and 4 are vertical. Vertical angles are congruent. Okay. 5 and, or no, let's see, 1, 2, 3 and 8. Is that a 3? I wrote over it now, I can't see. Yeah, 3 and 8 are vertical, so they would be congruent. So that would be 55. So now all 8 angles are filled in. Do that first, then come over here and answer all your questions. Okay, so they want angle 2, so now we're just going to write in angle 2 is 55 degrees. Angle 3 is 55 degrees. Angle 4, let's see, where's 4 on my picture because I wrote all over it. Angle 4 is under 3, so that's 125. Angle 5, where's 5? Oh, up there at the top. Angle 5 is 55 degrees. Angle 6 is 125. Oh, make my equal sign there. Okay. Angle 7 is 125. And angle 8 turned out to be 55. So again, fill in the picture first, then come over here and answer your questions. Now, the next 2 questions are just to make sure that you can see, okay, that you will have 4 angles that are 55 degrees and 4 angles that are 125, or you should. And if you have any other angles that are not 125 or 55 in this particular picture, then something went wrong with your math. So name all the angles congruent to angle 4. So we said angle 4 is 125, and either we can look at the information we just wrote or we can look at our picture, but the other angles that are equal to angle 4 are angle 1, which is the one they started out giving me angle 1, angle 6, and angle 7. Okay, so there are 4 angles, including angle 4, that are 125 degrees. And that's how it should be. Okay, 4 of them should be an obtuse measure. The other 4 should be an acute measure. That's how you can kind of make sure you're on the right track. So look at the next question. All the angles congruent to angle 2. We figured out angle 2 was 55 degrees. So what other angles were 55? Again, you can look at your picture or you can look at what you wrote up right above. We got angle 3, angle 5, and angle 8. They all measured 55. They're all acute. So there are 4 acute angles. Okay? And these two, your obtuse angle, okay, your 125, and your acute angle, which was 55 in this picture, should always add up to 180 degrees. So that's how you kind of know if you did it right. Do you have 4 obtuse angles? Do you have 4 acute angles? And do those two numbers add up to 180? All right, so pause the video. I want you guys to try this one by yourself and then come back. Fill in your picture first. I'm not looking at my answer choice. I'm just filling in my picture. So first thing you're going to do is read your directions because they tell you what angle and how much it measures. So right here they tell me angle 7 is 52 degrees. So angle 7 I'm going to put at 52 degrees. Use that to fill in all of your angle pairs. So pause the video, see if you can fill in your picture, and then when everybody's ready, you can come back and check. All right, hopefully you paused, hopefully you filled in your picture, okay, answered your questions, but let's see how we do this. So if angle 7 is 52, I would go vertical first. Well, you might have done corresponding, but I'm going to do vertical first, angle 7 and angle 6. 7 and 6 are vertical, so I know angle 6 is 52 degrees. Okay. If you then went and said, well, I also know 7 and 5 are corresponding angles are congruent, and you may not have. Okay, you may have found 1 and 8 first before you moved up. It all depends on how you want to do this. But 7 and 5 are corresponding, so that gives me a number up there. 5 and 4, oh look, vertical angles. We like vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. Okay, now I got to figure out 1, 8, 2, and 3. So if I'm just looking at the bottom, I can say angle 6 and angle 1. And again, just so everybody can see it, angle 6, it's this angle right here, and angle 1, this angle right here. They are linear. Okay, they're next to each other and make a straight angle. I know they're supplementary. So to figure out angle 1, I can do 180 minus 52. And that would give me 128. Now, you might have not looked at 6 and 1. You could have looked at angle 6 and angle 8. Okay. You could have looked at angle 7 and angle 1. You could have looked at angle 7 and angle 8. It just depends on where you look. But once you have angle 1 or angle 8, then just, hey, vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. And write 128. Now, you come up here, you can either do the same thing. Oh, angle 4 and angle 3 are linear. Let me do 180 minus. Or you could say, hey, angle 1 corresponds to angle 3. What do we know about corresponding angles? They're congruent. So 3 would be 128. Somebody else might have said, well, I said angle 1 and angle 2 are alternate interior. Alternate interior angles are congruent. So angle 2 would be 128. Someone else might have said, hey, angle 8 and angle 2 are corresponding. I know they're congruent. Somebody might have said, nope, I did angle 6 and angle 2. I know those are same side interior, so I know they have to add up to 180. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to get the top or the other part of your picture, as long as you're using valid reasons based on which ones are congruent and which ones are supplementary. So however you did it, angle 3 is 128, 3 is vertical to 2. Vertical angles are congruent. Okay, and so there's my picture. And again, different people will see these differently. Everybody should end up with the same answer, but your process may look a little different. All right, so let's bop over here and fill in our picture. I tried not to write on top of my numbers so I could see. So angle 1, we got to be 128 degrees. Angle 2, we also got to be 128 degrees. Angle 3 was 128, and angle 4, 52. Angle 5, 52 degrees. Angle 6, 52. And then angle 8, we got 128. Okay. Again, make sure that your obtuse angle, which in this case would be 128, plus the acute angle, this picture, it's 52, make sure they add up to 180. Okay, they should add up to 180 always. All right, name all the angles congruent to angle 3. So angle 3, we got to be 128. So we're going to say angle 1, angle 2, and angle 8. Okay, so there are 4 angles that measure 128 degrees. And now I should have 4 angles that measure 52 degrees that are equal to angle 6. So angle 6 was 52, so we got angle 4, angle 5, and then people are going to be like, I only see 2. Remember, they gave us angle 7 at the beginning. Don't forget about that one. So those 4, including angle 6, those were my 52 degree angles. And again, make sure that these 2 always give you 180. That's how you know if you did these right. All right, so let's make it a little bit more complicated. Okay, let's make it where they give us 2 pairs of parallel lines, because this gets a little more challenging, and some of this got a little cut off, so it's a little hard to read from the copy machine. So we're going to go ahead and cross this one out just because it completely cut off the first angle. The rest we can read pretty well. This is the measure of angle 3, the measure of angle 2. I think we can read the rest. And then if you're wondering what's really in front, they put the M. It's not a huge deal if we don't write it. Just remember that means the measure of. All right, so what you have to make sure you look at, they tell you that A is parallel to B, so there's 1 pair of parallel lines. And then they also tell you that C is parallel to D. Okay, so then you also have some parallel lines that are running diagonally. Now, a lot of people don't like looking at parallel lines diagonally, so if that is hard for you, turn your paper sideways if you need to look at C and D, because then they'll run horizontal. All right, so let's see. We're going to mark. I'm just going to erase the colors because you'll see why in a second. Let's mark the angle they're giving us. So they're giving us angle 3. Okay, so angle 3 is 45 degrees. So write that on your picture. So you probably want pencil, because otherwise your picture starts looking super crazy. And they want angle 14. So just like we did right above, you have to figure out, you're not going to fill in the whole picture. You have to figure out what the relationship is. And you do not need the other half of your picture. So either cover it up with your hands. I know you can't zoom out on your paper, but this is the only part of your picture you should be looking at. So I go, okay, 3 and 14, that would make this, this my transversal. So 3 and 14, they're on different sides, so that's alternate. And then I also know 3 and 14 are inside my parallel lines, because my parallel lines then would be A and B. So you got alternate interior. And they didn't ask, but it's probably smart to write this down so you know why you're coming up with your value. So if they're alternate interior, what do we know about alternate interior angles? They're congruent. So that means angle 14 would be 45 degrees. Now, here's the only problem. You've got to completely erase for the next question. Again, otherwise your picture will start looking like a nightmare. All right, angle 2. So let's find angle 2. Here's angle 2. Angle 2 is 50. Put that on my picture. They want angle 5. Now look where angle 5 is. Angle 5 is over here. Okay, so this is where sometimes people struggle a little. First, figure out what your transversal is. Okay, so here's the easiest way to figure out. Your transversal touches both of your angles. So would this line, would line C be your transversal? No, right? It only touches angle 2. Would angle D be your transversal? Nope, it only touches angle 5. Would angle A be your transversal? Yes, because it touches angle 2 and angle 5. Your transversal has to touch both of your angles. Now, here's what I'm talking about. Your parallel lines, then, are C and D. This line and this line are now your parallels. So a lot of people don't like to look at parallel lines diagonally, so I say, well, turn your paper. The other thing you want to make sure you understand, you do not need the bottom of this picture at all. So if the bottom is distracting to you, cover it up. So some of you may need to turn your paper sideways so that your parallel, which are green, I can't turn it sideways on the screen, but so that your green lines are running horizontal. But now we got to look. So what we look at is we say, okay, 2 and 5 are on the same side of my transversal. My transversal is my blue line. So they're on the same side. 2 and 5 are also inside my parallel lines, which up here are green. So they're inside my parallel lines on the same side of the transversal. Remember, those are same side interior. What do we know about same side interior angles? Same side interior angles are supplementary. They add up to 180. So to figure out angle 5, I do 180 minus 50, and that gives me 130. Again, they don't ask you to write the angle pair, but for most people just starting out, it's super helpful so you can really see the relationship and come up with the correct answer. All right, so we erase our picture and we start again. Angle 7, here's angle 7. They tell me it's 60. Cool. And they want angle 9. So they want this angle down here. So again, figure out your transversal. This would be my transversal because it touches both of my angles. It touches angle 7 and angle 9. So my parallel lines are going to be A and B. And I do not need the left-hand side of my picture. So again, cover it up with your hands. Okay, I'm going to zoom out. So that's what I'm looking at. So I have to figure out how 7 or 9 are related. So 7 and 9, they're on the same side of my transversal, which happens to be the blue line. And they are inside my parallel lines, which are my red, so they're clearly inside. So those would, again, those are same side interior. What do we know about same side interior? Same side interior are supplementary. So that means they add up to 180. So if I know that angle 7 is 60, I subtract. And so angle 9 is 120. Again, erase my picture. So I want you guys to, again, pause the video right here. Pause the video. Try the next 4. I would write down the angle pair even though they don't ask, just so I know what relationship I used. And once you guys take about 4 or 5 minutes to do those 4, then come back to the video and check. All right, so hopefully you paused the video, you tried those 4. Let's see how you did. Check your paper. So angle 14 and angle 11. First thing you want to do, especially right here, is figure out your transversal. Transversal would be B. because it touches both, which makes my parallel lines, oh, let's not use that color, let's use green. My parallel lines, remember your transversal intersects your parallel lines, so it has to go through two lines, but these would be my parallel lines. So we don't need the top half of my picture, and my parallel lines are running diagonal, so if you don't like it, just turn your paper a little so your parallel lines are running horizontal. So let's look. 14 and 11, same side or different? Different, so that's alternate. Inside or outside my parallel lines? Inside, so that's alternate interior. What do we know about alternate interior angles? They are congruent, so if angle 14 is 35, angle 11 is 35. Good. Again, I completely erase. Now, if you don't like erasing every time you go to a new problem, you can draw the picture 8 times if you really want to. I wouldn't. It's easier to erase, I think. All right, angle 5, 65. So here's angle 5, 65. Angle 12. Again, figure out your transversal. Has to touch both. That would be this. That would make my parallel lines A and B. I don't need the left part of my picture at all, so I'll just kind of zoom that out or cover it up. Oops, sorry about that, y'all. Try that again. There we go. All right, so figure out the relationship. 5 and 12, they are on different sides, alternate. They are outside my parallel lines, exterior. So these are alternate exterior angles. What do we know about alternate exterior angles? They are congruent. So if 5 is 65, 12 is 65. Again, reboot by erasing everything. Angle 7 is 60. Cool, here's 7. They want angle 10. Here's angle 10. What's my transversal? Yep, line D. That would make my parallel lines A and B. Do not need the left side of my picture at all, so we'll just kind of zoom out or cover it up. So what's the relationship between 7 and 10? They're on different sides of your transversal. They are inside your parallel lines. That's your alternate interior. What do we know about alternate interior angles? They are congruent. So if 7 is 70, so is angle 10. Good. Last one. Let me erase. Erase, erase, erase. All right, what do we got? 1 and 8. All right, come over here, mark angle 1, mark angle 8. What did they tell me angle 1 was? 50, okay. Again, it doesn't look like, it actually looks like an obtuse angle, but if they tell me it's 50, you just go with what they say. These pictures are not drawn to scale. All right, so figure out your transversal. Line A touches both of my angles, so line A is my transversal. All right, well that means line C and line D are going to be my parallel lines. I do not need the bottom part of my picture. Just kind of make that go away, cover it up with your hand. Now my parallel line's running diagonal. Again, if that bothers you, turn your paper until your lines are running horizontally. So let's look. 1 and 8, same side or different side of my transversal? Clearly different, right? So that's alternate. Are they inside or outside my parallel lines? They're outside. So these are alternate exterior angles. What do we know about alternate exterior angles? They are congruent. If they're congruent, then angle 8 is 50. All right, so that's what you're going to work on today. If you have any questions, please let us know. If you need to, this video is posted. If you need to go back and watch it for anything, please do that. It is there for your use. But again, let us know if you have any questions.